Hi, it's John from North Star Nursery, Garden and Home, your coastal gardener. So we've been doing a lot of propagating here at the nursery, and in the process of kind of doing some of that and learning some lessons, we've learned that best times to propagate are early spring and fall. So I wanted to impart some knowledge for you if you wanted to increase your plant collection through propagating. I think it's a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. And what I wanted to share with you is some of the tricks that I've learned. A lot of these things are things that I found out the hard way and with a lot of research on the internet to make sure that I was kind of heading in the right direction. I've had a ton of failures, so I've learned a few things along the way. The other thing is, what I do is I come from a perspective of wanting the plant that I propagate to be retail ready as soon as possible. Some of those things you don't have to do, but they are good for getting an outcome that's nice and full and better looking than just a straggly little one-liner. So I'm going to go through some of those things right now. So I grabbed a bunch of plant material from out in the gardens. And what I wanted to do was start first with, this is the Passiflora Coral Seas, which is along our fence line, passion vine. This is a really easy one to propagate. You can do it this time of year. You just have to protect it through the winter. So with all of the propagation, the guidelines are pretty much the same. You are trying to get one of these leaf joints in the soil. So in these leaf joints are carbohydrates and other goodies that will actually germinate roots. So what we do is we cut just below that leaf node. Can you see that? Okay. So we do that. Then we just cut, not too close, we cut off the leaf and the little squiggly guy. Then what we do, and what I usually try to do is I try to have 1 to 2 nodes, these guys, under the soil. Now, your container is going to dictate a lot of that. So we're going to be using a 4-inch pot for this. But if you have the space and the ability to do 1 gallon, you could certainly take those 2 leaf sets off and bury both of them. Because if you think about it, this is going to root out and this is going to root out. So if you have it in more soil, you're going to have a faster root production and a more vigorous plant eventually. But for our video, I'm just going to do it as a 4-inch. Now, the other thing we do is we want to get rid of these little, the little support squiggly guys, because what we're trying to do is lessen the material that this cutting has to sustain until it starts rooting. Less is more. So we're going to cut off so that I have 2 leaf sets. And then this is the part you guys are going to really freak out about. You're going to trim the leaf because this leaf structure is too much for this little cutting to sustain. And so we're trying to make it so that it can still photosynthesize. So we've just kind of rounded it out. Then we take our handy dandy rooting hormone. This is the stuff we use. I love it. We've carried it for, I don't know, 20 years or more. This is what I use regularly. And what we do is we dip into the rooting hormone and then we tap it off on the edges of the pot, the container. And so you can see it's a white dusting. It's hard to get in there probably. Then what we do is we take it and put it into the soil as low as we can go and snug it around. Now, is there a question? Yeah?
What kind of dirt soil do you use?
The question is what kind of soil do you use? So what I use is the Green All Organic potting mix. I like it. It has some nutrients in it, and so it'll help that plant kind of get established. If you wanted to, you could use the seed starting mix. Here's the only thing to kind of think about. The seed starting mix is really airy and fluffy and light, and it has a tendency to dry out really easily. So if you're not good at watering, like me, you might want to use the potting soil because that's going to retain a little bit more moisture. I hope that answers the question. So then what you want to do is, if this were mine, I would put a saucer underneath it to make sure that this stays moist. And you don't want to put it in a sunny location. You want to put it kind of in, maybe a little bit of morning sun and some afternoon shade dappled through a tree. It could go on a windowsill as long as it's not a south or west facing windowsill to get it started. And what you're going to do is in about 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to pull on this stem. And if it pulls up, if there's no resistance, then leave it alone. Just leave it alone and keep watering it and keeping it happy. Sometimes people will take a plastic grocery bag that has some rigidity, or even an old Ziploc bag, and you can put it over it like a little greenhouse, and that helps keep the moisture in and does create kind of a more happy growing environment. So that is Passiflora. As we came on the air, it makes it sound like a TV show, I was messing with this guy. This is Veronica Georgia Blue. This is a great ground cover. This time of year, it just has bronze foliage, which is lovely. We will be cutting them back hard in the fall and fertilizing them to get them ready for next spring. So probably around October or so, we'll go through and give these guys all a haircut. When we do that, we take cuttings. These are very flimsy little cuttings. And so, but we're going to handle it the same exact way. We're going to cut just below the stem joint that's at the bottom. And you're not going to be able to get in to see this, but you get the gist. I'm going to show it to you on all these other plants as well. And I want 2 of those leaf nodes down below. And then up above, I'm going to leave 2 leaf sets. So that's my little cutting. Now, the reason I'm doing 2, this is another one of those tricks. What I do is I try to propagate for something that's going to be ready later on more quickly. The reason I do 2 is because it's going to fill out that pot much faster. On a little cutting like this, you can do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It doesn't matter. As long as you keep them moist and happy, you're fine. I'm going to get a little pen here and just make a pilot hole. These little guys that are flimsy like this, sometimes you have to make a pilot hole for the stems to go in because they're not rigid enough to just push them in. These are a little harder to get the rooting hormone on because they're a short stem, but we've dusted them. We're putting them in the soil and we're pushing the soil in to snug it. And that's now our Georgia Blue propagation for next year. Okay, let's see. Oh, Tibicina. So this is Purple Princess bush. This is what grows really, really well all along the coast. It loves our summer, fall season. And so if you want to propagate for more for next year, this was just a branch that was hanging off of one of the plants that looked kind of funky. So I just clipped it off. So on this, we have 2 leaf nodes kind of already existing here with some greenery up above. I'm just going to strip that off, cut just below that last leaf node, and then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to cut the stem to 2 leaf sets. 1, 2. Then what I'm going to do is, again, this material is a little bit too bulky for those stems to maintain. So we're going to shrink their footprint. And then we dip, we shake, and we go. Oh, I could have gotten more on there. Okay, well, there you go. That's a nice one. Now, if you wanted a bushier bush sooner than later, in this 4-inch pot, you could do 3 or 4 cuttings. My suggestion, and this is aesthetics completely, is to put them together so that it looks like a multi-trunk plant when it grows, that it doesn't just have these 2 kind of, or 3 stems that are, 3 inches apart or whatever. This way it'll look fuller, faster, and you'll get something that you can do something with sooner. Tibicina, salvias. Oh my God, salvias. So many salvias right now. And they're all starting to get into their summer ugly mode. So we're going to cut off flowers. We always remove flowers. Flowers take a lot of energy from the plant, and it is the same energy that goes into root development. So we really want to keep it simple, stupid. I'm going to strip off these leaves. This is the leaf segment that I'm going to go for. I'm going to cut just below it. I'm going to get rid of these side shoots because it's just too much for this plant to sustain as far as a cutting. And then you'll see there's a little flower starting to come. I'm going to get rid of that. Cut this stem down. And now that is our cutting. Don't be afraid if a few weeks into it, some of these little leaves drop off. It's not the end of the world. As long as you still have some leaves, you're good. If you have a lot of leaf drop, it usually means you weren't watering enough. So just as an FYI. We're going to poke that in the soil. And there you go. The other thing that we have a lot of right now, because our fuchsias are really happy out front, these are Fuchsia Magellanica, which have been in great demand, and I haven't been able to keep up with the production. It's one that grows native here on the coast. So I'm going to... So this is a long stem. There's 1, 2 leaf sets, and then another 2 leaf sets up here. I'm going to cut that off, strip all of the greenery off of those lower sections, and also just make sure that if you have any flowers, because sometimes these cuttings still have flowers on them, make sure you pull them off. Now these guys propagated and rooted out pretty quickly this last time when I did them. They were ready in about 3 to 4 weeks, lightly rooted. So just kind of keep your eye on them, keep them moist. Don't let them dry out. Roses. So many things. I went around just cutting things this morning, making a bouquet. Roses are so much fun because they have all these thorns. Okay, this was just a cutting that I took off of one of our roses out front. So it has this arm here, and then it has this branch up here. I want to use just this branch, so I'm going to cut this off. Now, when it's close to the main stem like that, it has a few extra nodes, which is a plus. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip this one off, and then we have these other nodes down here. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to take most of the leaf sets off, except for just 2, so that this doesn't have so much to manage. And we're going to get rid of the top, which has the old flower on it. So this is now your cutting for a rose. Dip. We should do a song that's dip and stick. And stick it in the soil and keep it moist. Rose. Oh, viburnum. So for a lot of you guys, you've seen viburnum in the early spring that looks like a hydrangea. It's white flowers. It's almost a tree in our area. It can get 10 to 15 feet tall. It is such an awesome bloomer and is really hard to get. So part of the reason why we're doing all this propagation is that as Proven Winners has kind of expanded their collections more and more, The older plants that aren't patented anymore are not getting produced because Proven Winners is really generating interest in their new plants through magazines, commercials, etc. So these older plants that have been tried and true favorites for years are really disappearing off of the palette as far as growers. So what we're trying to do is save some of those plants to propagate some of those plants. We're working really hard at the nursery to have larger mother stock plants that we can pull off of. So just know that some of these things are really hard to find anymore. It's like there used to be this great white daisy that we had out front, and it was called Canariensis. It's gone. It'll never be back again. I can't find it anywhere, can't find seed, can't find anything. And to me, that's sad. It was a really effective deer-resistant plant. So there you go, viburnum, back to viburnum. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. This is the viburnum leaf stem, and these models, the mottled leaves, that is just a variegation thing. It's not going to hurt the plant. But for our use, we're going to just strip all of these lower leaves off. We have those 2 leaf nodes right there. And then we're also, again, with this one, going to trim down the material so that it's more sustainable. Seems so weird that you can cut leaves and they'll still be viable. But it is. So dip in the rooting hormone, shake it off, stick it in, snug it down, and there you go. Let's see, what else did I bring in? It's like candy. I think it's like candy. This is Salvia Big Swing. One of my customers brought it to my knowledge probably 3 years ago. And I have fallen in love with this salvia. It is huge. Probably stands, when it's full grown, I would say a good 5 feet. We have it planted out front in our parking lot gardens. And we also have it in our big pots by the gate. They are getting very big. And they are wonderful because they're deer resistant and they're very dramatic. So we are going to go about it the same way we did with all the others. I'm just going to cut this because I need to not have to handle all of this. So we're getting rid of the flower. So there's a lot going on here. And so what I would do is we have 1 node, 2 node here, and 2 leaf sets up here. These have already started to branch. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut off the larger leaves just because it'll be less for that plant to, or that cutting to maintain. And then I'm going to trim all of the leaves that are really big and then trim the ones that are remaining down to half size. The other thing I'm going to do, all 3 of these have growth nodes that are just going to continue going up. I'm actually going to break those out with my fingernail because they're hard to snap off and you might break the actual stem. The reason we're doing that is because we want this to bush out. And if we leave that center node going, it's just going to keep getting taller, 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 and probably try to bloom. And what we want it to do is branch out and be gorgeous. Uh-oh. I got salvia in my rooting hormone. To fish that out later. There's another trick I actually want to teach you about rooting hormone. Actually, it's about any dry product, fertilizers, anything like that you have at home. Our environment is very moist. And so what I do is when we get these silly little silica packets and everything in the world that comes shipped to us, I save these in a Ziploc bag. And what I do is I drop a few of them into my rooting hormone. Because if you think about it, each time you're dipping a stem into there, there's moisture on it. And so eventually it gets all kind of clogged up. I'm not sure if you can see in there. I have 2 little silica packets in there. And then what I also do is I put them in my Sure Start containers. I use shoe boxes, those plastic shoe boxes that lock for all of our fertilizers. And I keep those in there too because we have a very moist environment. And stuff gets all gumped up and then you can't use it. And that's no fun. I wanted to show you one more salvia. This is Mexican sage. This variety just happens to be the all purple, which is called Midnight. So same thing before. We have 2 leaf nodes here. This isn't going to be the most gorgeous cutting because it's going to be kind of wonky. But again, we're going to trim down these leaves. These leaves are really big, so we want less is more. We're going to dip, and then we're going to tuck it in. The other thing I wanted to go over actually was succulents, and I'll just do it really quickly because it's pretty basic. These are aeoniums, and this was the mother, and these guys on the sides are all the babies. And these babies can be harvested this time of year. I'm sliding it out of the pot because I can't get my fingers in here very easily. But I'm going to snap off. Yep, there we go. I'm going to snap off a rosette. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip off some of these leaves. You want to do it gently because sometimes when these are young like this, the whole stem will come off when you're peeling. The reason we're peeling is because we want to open up those leaf nodes, just like on all the other cuttings, so that we can get root development. Now, you can do rooting hormone. I don't traditionally. Succulents pretty much kind of do their own thing on their own. And then I kind of center it in the pot and push it down, not too low, but low enough so the leaves are all set against the soil. So that's succulents. I think that is it. I know this was a long video. I hope you guys are doing great. It's a gorgeous day out there. It has been very warm, so please check on your babies outside, especially those hanging baskets and those pots. They probably will need an extra drink of water. And don't forget, you need an extra drink of water. So we'll look forward to seeing you at the nursery.